We're starting now the third session for today. I'd like to invite the moderator for this panel, Amane Dannouni, Managing Director and Partner at Boston Consulting Group, and the expert in digital technology and data.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a great lunch. And for those who are still having the great lunch, please make your way here. Thank you, everyone, for making it to this session. This is a session on a topic that is moderately interesting, technology. I heard the session was oversubscribed. So we're going to have probably more people coming in. I have a great pleasure of having in the panel today His Excellency Dr. Talaat, Minister of Communication and IT. Thank you, sir. We have Director Matthieu Bousquet, Director of the Directorate General of Neighborhood Enlargement and Negotiation. Thank you for making it. We have Mr. Peter Ficketig, Group CEO of 4IG. We have as well Hicham Arafa, Chief Operations Officer for Brightskies and Chairman of the Board for Octopus. Good to have you. We have Mohamed Mohsen, CEO and Chairman of Vision LLC. Mohamed, you're there. Norman Albi, CEO of AFR-IX Telcom. And last but not least, Vach Kompella, President of Nokia IP Networks. Thanks so much. So what I would suggest is we're going to have 2 rounds of questions to all the panelists. We will run through them, hopefully keep the answers to 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes for each one of them. And then after these 2 rounds of questions, we will have opportunity presentations. We have 3 in shop for you. And after that, we'll have closing remarks and hand it over to the second panel, which will be on entrepreneurship. Maybe let me start with you, Minister. My question, maybe to start this from a big picture perspective. In your perspective, what should the EU private sector companies have in mind when they're considering investing in Egypt in the sector of technology?
Thank you very much for the question. Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be among this distinguished panel. In my view, any company that is examining a market in order to make a decision to invest would look into more than one element. Of course, security and stability comes first place. Second, and equally important, is human skills and talent. Infrastructure comes into play, the ecosystem being friendly and conducive, the proximity to the markets that you're targeting, and the market size of the destination that you're targeting, because you're not only necessarily targeting to export out of the location you're examining or studying, but also exploiting the domestic market. These, in my view, would be the 6 elements that one would look at. If we maybe benchmark these elements against Egypt, stability and security, we don't need to talk about it. It's evident and apparent. Talent and the upskilling of talent is definitely an extremely important point. In the ICT market, we've started building a strategy 6 years back. The cornerstone of our Digital Egypt strategy was the talent and the skill pool. There was doubts, and I still receive questions whether we can sustain the volumes and the intensity of the training that we've been executing for the past few years. And the answer is in the pipeline of graduates out of universities. We have around 650,000 graduates every year out of universities, of which 250,000 STEM graduates, of which around 60,000 ICT graduates. So the pipeline will not dry up anytime soon. It'll continue and likely and hopefully it'll increase. Hence, as I said, the cornerstone of Digital Egypt strategy was to build a seamless and comprehensive path of training and skill build-up initiatives that would cater and suit each and every citizen in Egypt, starting a pupil in grade 4 all the way up, not only to university graduates, but all the way up. If you're 80 years old, we still have a room for you. The idea is to welcome each and every citizen who want to take ICT as a profession, want to reskill and switch to ICT, or deepen his knowledge and experience within the ICT. Very, very quick, because I'm aware of the time. We started with 4,000 trainees every year. Now we're at 400,000. The philosophy is to have a blended model that would cater for people in each and every location in Egypt. So it's not only Cairo that we're targeting, but we have training initiatives for everybody. We focus on the advance of technology and make sure that we can offer training and upskilling to our people in the newest and latest technologies. We're in partnership with all the distinguished companies of the sector and universities in order to partner with them, in order to make sure that we have the right syllabus at the right caliber. We try to integrate practical experience with theoretical and academical training. I don't want to dwell. I can discourse on this subject for hours. It is definitely my passion, but I don't want to take more of the time. Net, we have a very wide, that keeps widening and increasing skill pool across different disciplines of ICT. Next is the digital infrastructure. And I'll focus on digital infrastructure because I believe in the past sessions this morning, His Excellency the Prime Minister talked about the infrastructure in a broader context. I'll focus on the digital infrastructure. We started again investing around $2.5 billion in order to boost our fixed broadband network and mobile network. We started with a fixed broadband average speed 5.6. Now we're at 77, so 13 folds. We started ranking number 40 in Africa. Now we rank number 1 for the past 2 years. We've doubled the number of towers and mobile cells by 5 in the past 10 years. So we're en route in order to make sure that we have a resilient digital infrastructure. This served well during the COVID years when all companies, then I'm sure my fellow colleagues on the panel will agree to that, everybody resorted to working from home. And we needed a reliable and robust digital infrastructure to make sure that we can cater for this model that was imposed by the pandemic. Now the pandemic is over, alhamdulillah, but still a lot of companies still opt for a blended model between the traditional way, the traditional model of working and working from home. So we still need to keep investing in our digital infrastructure. I'll maybe end in 30 seconds, no more, about the friendly ecosystem. And by friendly, I mean we're transparent. We have a strategy that is announced, so any investor would know the legislative agenda within the ICT sector. We started with cyber crime law, and then data protection law, and then cloud first policy. We amended our digital signature bill to make sure it caters for new technology. Now we're on to data exchange and classification and the AI Act. So we have a strategy, we have a government that is ready to partner with each and every investor who is considering to land in Egypt, since they start with studying the Egyptian market all the way till the establishment of an office. I'll stop here in order not to take the time of my
Thank you, Minister.
friends and colleagues.
I know this is a topic that you want to be passionate about. The two infrastructures, I call them, the soft infrastructure, which is the talent, and the hard infrastructure, which is the connectivity, the compute, the data centers, will have a presentation of a couple of opportunities, actually, that can push this effort even further down the road. Director Bousquet, can we now have the other perspective, how Europe sees Egypt as a technology partner, and any specific thoughts you have on that partnership and the win-win nature of the collaboration that is in place?
Yeah, thank you very much, and very happy to be here. Also, I mean, I think the Minister presented very well also what we call in the EU the digital compass. And the digital compass is basically 4 key areas: infrastructure, skills, and you mentioned them quite eloquently, Minister, governance, and business. And I want, to come very quickly on the 4 points. On the skills, I'm not going to expand. We are partnering very much with the Egyptian government. I mean, yesterday we signed a program to support the government in this respect. So I think there is a strong potential in Egypt, and this is very much, why also we want to work with Egypt. Maybe on the infrastructure, and I think this is something which is important. According to my statistics, they might be outdated, but 72% of the population has access to internet. But it might be, yeah, okay, good. But maybe more, but also we need also to think about the quality infrastructure. And this is why, we are partnering, also to have Medusa. Norman is going to talk about it, because this is for us key that the students in the universities and so on, we are talking about 5 million students, do have access to quality and high-speed infrastructure. It's also important that we are talking about cyber-secure infrastructure. This is absolutely essential in the world of today. If you want business to grow, if you want business to develop, they need to be sure that the data they're putting on the internet, is safe and is protected. You mentioned the laws that you are making, but also the quality on the infrastructure, and I'm sure our colleagues will talk about it, are fully secure. So this is about infrastructure, people and skills, governance. I think this is important. You mentioned that, Minister, but I think we've seen some recent progress on digital services. This is also how we are bringing technology to the citizens, but also to the SMEs and to the private sector. So how to simplify access to the government services by using the digital potential for the SMEs and for the population. And of course, in terms of business, we see very much growing the digital ecosystem here. But again, if we want it to grow even further, we need to think these 3 dimensions together.
Thank you, Director Bousquet. And again, I like how this is putting a lot of emphasis on the different pillars, and the overlap is on the infrastructure, the hard part, and the skills, and then how the rest can organize around those two. We have other panelists that have experienced this business environment, whether from the Egyptian side or from the EU side. Maybe let me start with you, Peter. You're the group CEO of AFR-IG, and in light of your signing ceremony with Telecom Egypt, can you give us a sense of what was behind your decision? How did you see, as a private sector leader, that cooperation happening, and how do you see Egypt in the future?
Thank you for the question, and appreciate being here today with you. And this is a historical moment for us, definitely, because this is the second time that we are signing an MOU with Telecom Egypt within less than a year, and this is a pivotal moment. I believe that in the cooperation that we have started just less than a year ago with Telecom Egypt. And AFR-IG is headquartered in the European Union, but we are coming from the eastern part of the bloc, and we also have investments in the West Balkan region. And now, with all these strategic partnerships, we are moving into the European Union. So this gives us a unique blend in terms of how we see investment. And the first angle or aspect I would like to highlight is investment. And we believe that investment is very important. And then you could see that with the enlargement of the European Union, how much benefit and development investment brought into these countries. And with investment that we are hopefully bringing into Egypt, we are expecting to see similar positive trends in the Egyptian economy, society, and the whole ecosystem. And you know, this is a very important moment for us because we are signing this partnership at the moment of the Egypt-EU Investment Summit, and we believe that there will be significant new investment coming from the EU into Egypt. And you know, speaking on behalf of European companies, you know, we want to see a strong, stable, developing Egyptian economy around the Mediterranean Sea. In addition to sort of investment, I would like to highlight that, you know, this partnership around the fiberization and then the fiber rollout across Egypt will bring significant benefits to the households, to the small and medium-sized economies, and also the overall public sector. And I strongly believe that this goes beyond upgrading and updating the older copper technology with new modern fiber technology. This brings investment, this will bring development into the broader sector, and this will positively contribute to the overall economic development and GDP of the country. You know, this is important because at this time we are living in the time of artificial intelligence. We are talking a lot about digital economy, and investment into the digitalization is a crucial importance, not just for Egypt, but also for the cross-country relationships. Also, the partnership between Telecom Egypt and 4iG is of particular importance because this reinforces the ties between the two companies that we started. And what you see here is the two national champions joining forces and making investments in the digital economy. And what I would like to enhance, which is something that was discussed yesterday in the speeches and also in the roundtables, is that, you know, this goes beyond just this partnership. We are also talking about transfer of knowledge, experience, and things like that. So there will be much more than just the scope of this MOU. Thirdly, I would like to highlight that, you know, we are also doing many other things, as I explained to you, with Telecom Egypt and then the ecosystem in Egypt. And then we are also developing new submarine routes connecting Egypt with Europe. And then in particular, as we have investments in Albania, we are developing new submarine cables connecting Egypt and Albania, and that will bring investment into both countries. And then hopefully, you know, we are expecting that we are going to contribute towards the EU enlargement of the West Balkan countries, including Albania, where we have strong presence, and then that will, you know, bring new investment and energy into the region. And this is also, I would say, a revolutionary project because this hasn't been done before. If you look at the ecosystem around the submarine cables, they are mostly centered around Western Europe. And with the investment into the West Balkan and Eastern Europe, we are opening up new routes into the West Balkan region, which hasn't been done. And this is something that we are creating. We are creating new jobs and opportunities into this region. So these were my points, and thank you for the question.
Thank you, Peter. And then let me go directly to you, Norman. I'll come back to you, Hicham, for another question on the Egyptian side. But since we were talking about fiberization and international connectivity, the question to you, Norman, and I know this is a sector that you know a little bit, right, in AFR-IX Telecom. So what do you think is the opportunity to increase Egypt's international connectivity? I mean, today already it's a huge hub, and it's supposed to have 16 landing stations by 2026. So how do you see the future and the partnership opportunities in that future?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Well, the first one, I would like to put some numbers. Half of the traffic, international traffic generated in Africa is generated in North Africa, in the 5 countries, in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt. So it means that, the area in the Mediterranean is the most, I would say, the area with the most growth. and the most traffic of the continent. Then the second one is that 100% of this traffic today is going to Europe, which is a little bit strange, because if we look at sub-Saharan Africa, 65% of the traffic is going to Europe, but 35% of the traffic is staying in Africa. So when we have built Medusa, that we're landing in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and of course Egypt, and then in southern European countries, the first question that we have got from other African countries is, okay, we can connect to Europe, but can we connect to Egypt? So Egypt is the focus place for many North African countries. So it's the place where many submarine cables are landed, many cables transit through Egypt, but now Egypt is seen as from a different point of view, in a place where they want to get services from Egypt. They want to obtain an access to content in Egypt, as well as they are accessing content in Europe. So we think that the building of the cable that we did with Medusa, which is focused in the Mediterranean, to interconnect all the Mediterranean countries, and for the first time, all the 5 countries in Northern Africa, it brings a new opportunity for the Egyptian ecosystem, not only to serve the internal market, which is huge, it's the largest market, 100 million people, but also to position itself as a provider of services for Northern Africa and as a protection services maybe for Southern Europe. So this is the new trend that we see in the market.
Thank you, Norman. And again, this is an important element to keep in mind, that infrastructure, as Minister, you have said, as Director Bousquet have insisted, is a critical element that Egypt is well positioned on and can push that boundary even further. Now, let me go back to you, Hicham. We have talked about the opportunities of collaboration, and collaboration is both ways, right? It's also, so from your experience as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, how do you live this business environment that has been described for a technology company like the one that you have built?
Very good. Well, thank you, Amane. But I think what we have here is like 3 elements that we need available to grow the business in Egypt, especially in the technology sector. And I'd say the first element is the availability of human capital and people. And we have actually great population. We have good educational system, very good educational system, in fact. We have actually lots of programs driven by the government and by the universities to grow more talents. So, and it's actually what we need to fuel this industry of ours. So the second is the availability of infrastructure. And I'll tell you, a few years ago when we started our headquarters in Alexandria, we had no fiber optics in the place where we were. So we were the first to order fiber optics for this place. And today we have around 300 engineers and more than 1,000 call center agents in this location that are actually working and delivering business and delivering services to Europe and to America. So third, I'd come to the ease of doing business and the business environment. And I think for our industry, we need lots of logistics support. So ease of importing and exporting equipment that we use for our development and our production, and the systems that we develop to be able to ship it back and forth to our customers. And when we started, the environment was a bit difficult, but actually we had lots of programs that were actually driven by ETIDA and by the government to ease this by providing an environment for the companies and a process to export and import equipment, which did help a lot growing this business. So a few years ago, if we look at embedded automotive, for example, we had actually 2 or 3 companies in Egypt. Today, I can count at least 16 companies working in this business. Today, I can see thousands of engineers. So a few years ago, we were actually in the tens and hundreds. Today, we are in the thousands. And in PBO, I mean, I can actually talk until tomorrow. We have tens and hundreds of thousands of agents that are actually working outside of Egypt and delivering quality service worldwide.
Thank you, Hicham, and I'd love to hear it until tomorrow, but I'm going to keep us moving. So we talked about the service side. I'm looking also at a very specific skill that I want to bring us closer to with Mohamed Mohsen. You're looking at a sector that is really cutting edge. Chips design is not for the faint-hearted, and we know today, actually we know since COVID, how a shortage in that sector can cripple countries and industries. Can you walk us through the story of how you built that kind of skill within Egypt and were able to export it to other parts of the world?
Thank you for the question, and thank you to be part of this panel. So during due to the time constraint, I'm gonna go through the history of how we started, because actually I would say it's a very exciting story. It was hard, it was not easy, but it's a very exciting one if you look back. Like we started 17 years back. When we started, there was like just 2-3 companies doing this. So Egypt was not known to be a country or a place doing semiconductor-like kind of design. So it was really hard to get to access to global market, really hard to convince your clients anywhere on the earth that you can design cutting-edge technology, you can get access to the technology. But actually with hard work, with lots of like strategic partnerships, some of them even coming from Europe with funding from the EU funds, and as well as all the investments coming from the government, from training, from funding. This really allowed us to get into from design service into the IP. So we started to do our own IP like design into cutting edge technology for the wireless. It was really tough. But by 2015, we started 2007, 2015, we were one of the best IP provider for wireless products on Earth. And our whole technology got acquired by Synopsys, which is one of the leading companies for the IP technology. So this took the company from a company for 4 engineers at 2007 to now one of the companies that has 700 engineers doing semiconductor design with latest cutting-edge technology. We're doing design up to down to 2-nanometer technology, which is the latest technologies right now. Our team are touching pretty much every single products you would see in your hands today, from mobile devices, from automotives, from I believe like now our global footprint with customers going like beyond our limit. We couldn't really imagine or expect that we would lead this. So I would say, just taking from what Dr. Talaat said, like political instability and infrastructure, and definitely the human resources and education lead us to this point. So now we're seeing like more than 30 companies doing semiconductor design in Egypt. We're seeing like European firms like acquiring companies in Egypt and starting their own design centers in Egypt, which is an amazing story. So we inspired some people to start, and now I think it's growing.
That's fantastic, and I think you also inspired some technology players to come to Egypt. I'm looking at you, Vach. Nokia is establishing a hub in Egypt. Do you want to describe what that looks like, and more specifically, why? Like, what triggered that ambition, and what do you see it becoming in the future?
Thank you, Amane, for the question. And you know, I'm super excited to be here and hearing all the comments from all the panelists, because you know, it really gives you enthusiasm to get involved in technology here in Egypt. The way we started, and right now Nokia has been in Egypt for over 30 years, and we've brought technology here for quite a while. We have a fairly large set of engineers here who are serving Egypt and North Africa. And about 3 years ago, we decided, can we do more? And so we started looking at college students and bringing in interns. And over the past 3 years, maybe 150 plus engineers or would-be engineers we brought into Nokia and trained them. And His Excellency, the Minister Talaat said, you know, we have a very big workforce, potential workforce here, and we need to upskill them. And we need to give them practical experience on networking technology so that really when they hit the field, they're ready. They've already experienced real-life networks, and they've had hands-on training. So we started from there, and in fact, as some of those interns graduated, we hired some of them, and then we said, okay, let's get a little more ambitious. Let's start a center for excellence here, and let's pick a couple of really key technology areas that we think are significant in the networking space. So we picked two areas. One of them is automation, and automation allows you to scale networks, let them work on their own without having to have human intervention, which is very important for large-scale networks. It's very important for error-free networks. And so we decided we were going to introduce, at the Center for Excellence, the concepts of automation, the programming skills required, and give them training on automation. And that will really help them to excel as they either join Nokia or other industry companies with the right skills. So a background in STEM, and then hands-on training, and really entering some very key technology areas. The second area that we decided to invest in was in data center technology, because of course the cloud has been everything for the past several years, and the data center is where there's a lot of action, whether it's in the public cloud or it's in private enterprise clouds. And of course, in the last year and a half, we've had so much excitement around AI, so we're trying to blend all of that together and bring some leading edge technologies and have students get introduced to them firsthand, and really then be able to serve here in Egypt to begin with, but then we have ambitions that we can really reach out to Northern Africa, to the Middle East, and even all the way to Europe and the rest of the world. So we can really get a lot of involvement of Egypt in the overall economy, global economy.
Thank you, Vach, and I think this is an ambition that is shared, and I agree with you. You feel enthusiasm and a lot of energy in those conversations. So far, I've been a very nice moderator, I feel. I think we were close to the 4 minutes than the 2 minutes in each session. So I would ask for the second round of questions. Everyone, please, let's keep it closer to the 1 minute. I'm going to say 30 seconds, so we're at the 1 minute. But I want to make sure that we have a second round, because there are a couple of deep dives that I think are very interesting. We looked at the core elements, and I think everyone had a different framework, but we heard a lot about the infra part, we heard a lot about the skills, we heard a lot about private sector and government. I want to maybe ask you, Minister, to comment on this critical element, government and private sector. How does the partnership work, and what does it help do in the case of Egypt and in the sector of technology?
Right, thank you very much, an extremely important question. Allow me first to comment on one very important thing that dear Matthieu has mentioned about the reachability and the ability of Egyptians to access the internet, because it's a very important point that we've been working on, not only in urban areas where, as I've said, we've invested $2.5 billion to upgrade the network, but also rural areas. We have this gigantic developmental project, Haya Karima, or Decent Life. And when the Decent Life project was designed at its inception, we as a government thought of what services should we provide to our citizens to ensure that we then avail a decent life. And it was a reliable sewage system, clean water, electricity, and high-speed internet. And we started connecting around 6 million households in around 4,500 villages, where 60 million Egyptians are going to benefit from that. And even during the economical crunch that erupted last year, there were voices among the government to maybe shrink the project and take the digital infrastructure out of it. The president declined. And the reason I'm mentioning this is to assure everybody, especially our guests from out of Egypt, that it is the vision of the government at its highest rank, that the digital infrastructure is a vital element to our citizens. Back to your important question about the relationship between the government and the private sector in the ICT sector. Maybe for the sake of brevity, I did not mention the last element of the elements I outlined when I was trying to describe the offering or the value proposition for Egypt. One important thing is the market volume. And this luckily comes back into play when we talk about this relationship. First, it is, I wouldn't say a strategy, it is more of a philosophy within the ICT sector since its inception over 25 years back, that it is through private sector that we execute on our strategies. So all the projects that are executed within the ICT sector, whether by Ministry of ICT or other ministries, are all executed via the private sector. And our role as a government is to facilitate, is to strategize, and to govern, but never to execute. It is all left to the private sector that we believe is more capable, and it is the role of the private sector. The reason I'm tying between this and the volume of the market is, as I said, the private sector may opt to come to operate in Egypt, like many companies that are working now in Egypt, and my colleagues on the panel are great examples of this. We have now around 400 companies offshoring out of Egypt to elsewhere. Many of them are also operating in the Egyptian market in areas like fintech, in areas like agri-tech, like edutech, like the government services. There are very promising sectors for the private sector to come and partner with the government. We started a few years back with establishing a platform, Digital Egypt platform, where we are now rendering 170 government services fully digitalized through this platform. We're moving into the second phase of digitalization by having an architecture of that is citizen-centric, where the citizen can obtain a homogeneous sets and bouquets of services from platforms, one for the judicial services, one for educational services, one for social protection, and so forth. We have 15 platforms that we're offering to private sector in a partnership. We've already signed with some companies, a few of them. There are a lot more that are still in the pipeline. So it is a message for the companies that are working on Egypt or that are monitoring the Egyptian market that there is a wide room and potential within the digitalization sector in Egypt for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And you talked very eloquently about that very critical partnership between the private and public sector. Director Bousquet, I want to ask you about the different partnerships, so about the full Egyptian ecosystem as a whole and the European Union. Any words on where you see the biggest collaboration areas moving forward between those two ecosystems?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe to also to react on what Minister was saying, but to expand. I think clearly what we see, and we heard that also from the CEO of Capgemini yesterday, I mean, the Egyptian workforce and creativity is excellent. So this is important because this is also setting the benchmark. You heard also that from different people, I mean, here. So now the question, and it's also related to the EU or the Egyptian government, is to offer the framework, the relation between the private and the public. So you have the creativity, you have the potential with the Egyptian people, the Egyptian students. Minister mentioned a number of them who are on STEM and who have the basic capacities, I mean, to develop digital solutions. Now it's up to us, EU and the government, and also EU companies, just as our colleague from Hungary, I mean, to propose really options and partnerships. It's about, again, I mean, quality infrastructure, and it's about quality e-governance, e-government, e-ID, e-trade, e-customs. So this is, we are engaging with the government, I mean the European Union, with a 10 million euro program, I mean to support also activities that is going to facilitate the work. Minister mentioned, I mean, the size, of course, of the internal market of Egypt. We have an internal market, I mean, in the EU, but I mean, this is, of course, the citizens, I mean, are the ones who are going to use all the apps and the digital solution. So getting this approach of getting the framework ready for the digital economy to develop and the digital ecosystem, I mean, that's we are aiming at, working with the Egyptian government and the EU.
And to zoom on one of those partnerships that is already in place, I'm looking at you, Peter, the relationship between 4iG and Telecom Egypt. Can you bring us closer to what this partnership was able to create, and how do you see it developing in the future?
Look, this is going to be a long-term partnership, and this has multiple layers. I think that the first and probably most near-term advantage or aspect of this partnership is that we are going to bring the high-speed connectivity to households, to businesses, to governments, and I think that across the country. This will be important because it will help the economy, the growth, and then, as an example, the small and medium-sized enterprises will be able to use higher speed internet, connect to cloud-based facilities, and then be part of the data center ecosystem. I think that it's also important that we will be helping reach households and the residential markets where this type of service hasn't been allowed yet, and then that will help reduce the division between the various parts of the country where this type of high-speed connectivity service has not been possible in the past. And in addition to the near-term advantages, we will be working towards knowledge transfer and then transfer of experiences, and then working together as partners. And what is also important is that this is an import if you look at from the Egyptian side. But as we are creating this successful business model and the joint venture, then we'll be able to hopefully export these services out of Egypt in the North African region, and I think this will also bring additional advantages to the Egyptian economy. Also, if you look at 4iG, we are working with most of the vendors in the world in different parts, and we are always seeking to serve the customers with the technology which best suits the needs of the customers. And we will be approaching this project likewise, and then bringing the latest and best technology into the country will be very important and pivotal moment, and then we will be creating long-term advantages. And when we approach partnership with our vendors and the vendor ecosystem, we are not only focusing on the near-term advantages, but we are looking at creating long-term partnerships and then bringing jobs and investment and also R&D in the countries where we operate. So this will be an additional layer of the cooperation.
Thank you, Peter. And since we're talking about infrastructure, maybe again, moving to you, Norman, you're partnering on a very critical piece of infra, right? Like subsea cables and international connectivity is the hidden part of our economy that, this is the backbone of how we run connectivity today. What are the future opportunities you see for collaboration on this specific kind of core backbone to the digital economy?
Well, the first one and more immediate is that we are going to sign a collaboration with Telecom Egypt to extend the Medusa network into the universities, fulfilling the collaboration from the European Commission on the GEAN network. This one is the first one, and the second one is taking advantage of the position of Egypt as gateway to reach neighboring countries. So our objective is to in collaboration with Telecom Egypt again, to be able to reach from Medusa to neighboring countries, especially Jordan. That is the first country that we are interconnecting, but also we have a similar agreement to get to some other subsea stations in the Red Sea. So that might be that will be the beginning for some other ideas that are in place.
Thank you, Norman. And I'll ask the same question now, starting to look more to the future. For you, Hicham, any examples of collaboration with the EU where you see opportunities in the future?
Well, I'd say that used to be an easy question to answer in the past because there was actually one success story. I mean, today we have many success stories, and you get really confused when you get this question, which one to tell. So I'd rather actually talk about how we actually are improving our presence in the value chain of ER&D, especially in automotive, and taking the next step after we learned lots of vertical actually knowledge in automotive, going from software to system to mechanical and to hardware engineering, and then vertically in the products itself and gaining the product knowledge. So we started actually developing our own products at some point of time, and now we have actually IPs that are generated that we can provide our customers with. We have products that we build locally and are planning to start exporting them. And probably the next step will be influencing the direction of the industry and actually setting trends and industry trends in this industry. For PBO, I mean, we started also utilizing AI to build tools to improve the efficiency and the quality of the service delivered from our agents. And that's actually a very good step forward that we're taking. So this wouldn't have happened without the collaboration with our EU partners and the knowledge that we've gained over the years working with them. And I can name many where we have more than 50% of their software development and some more than 50% of their R&D done in Egypt.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Mohamed Mohsen. What are the future opportunities of collaboration that you see in actually a very critical sector that you're putting your feet on now?
Okay, sure. So no-brainer right now is all the demand and the lots of applications coming like generative AI, like electric vehicles, and lots of other applications coming. Like I would see that all this is putting a pressure on the semiconductor, which is the ones providing the processing, the one providing the infrastructure for all this connectivity and everything. So a no-brainer that this cannot happen with just one country alone doing something. So if we don't have this collaboration between the EU and a country like Egypt, which I believe there is a strategic partnership has to happen because Egypt is like a cornerstone for this region to stabilize. So the stability needs development. And one of this like sectors that we can really be with a great value is the semiconductor design. We proved that we have good calibers here. And with all the investments done with the government that we hear from Dr. It's happening already. And there is already a seed of company there. I think the mutual benefits of joint researches that can really happen between the EU and the Egyptian universities and the startup, this can really lead to a technology transfer. So it's not just like doing some service, but there is a real partnership that's coming through this relationship. And I believe there is lots of opportunity that can come out of it, which have the win-win relationship. Because Egypt is not only like we are in the same time zone of Europe and all this, no, but we are also cost-effective. I don't like to say like cheap, but I would say cost-effective because it's a very important thing to say. And quality is really like noticeable because we have seen this feedback from lots of our like tier one customers, especially in Europe, that the quality here is really, really good, especially compared to other locations. And with all the geopolitical shifts that we have been seeing since the pandemic, I believe Egypt will be a very good destination for this like partnership.
Thank you, Mohamed Mohsen. And maybe one question to close it all, and it will be for you, Vach, to answer that. We talked a lot about the components of this digital agenda, right? And we talked about the skills, we talked about the infrastructure, the collaboration between government and the private sector, and all the win-win opportunities when we talk about Egypt and the EU. Why don't you walk us, since you have seen that, I think, in many countries now, how a potent collaboration around digital and technology can help further improve the socioeconomic resilience of countries, and what should we be looking forward to when we get that right?
Thanks for the question, Aman. And I think, Dr. Amara had mentioned Haya Karima as a project. We're participating along with Telecom Egypt on that project. And we see many such similar initiatives by governments around the world. There's the BEAD program in the US, which is trying to bring broadband to everyone. These are extremely important to make sure that no one gets left behind in the digital divide. We want to make sure that everyone has access to good education, to financial opportunities, to e-banking and resources like that. But also, we want to make sure that the infrastructure allows for the investment from hyperscalers and local opportunities also to bring technologies like the cloud. And all of these tend to eventually lift every aspect of society, not just the ones who have means, but the ones who don't are eventually lifted up also by the same technologies. And then you don't have dividing lines anymore. And I think that's very, very important. And technology has been the source of freeing a lot of these barriers.
Thank you very much, and I think this is a hope and aspiration all technologists and people who touch technology from close or far would share. I would like to thank the panel for your time. Thank you very much. And before handing it over to the second segment, I just want everyone to keep in mind, if anything, the two pillars that I think everyone has mentioned here. There's an element around getting the right infrastructure, and many of the opportunities that will be presented will be around that. And there is also an element around getting the right skill and having a country that is able to churn out, Minister, you'll correct me, 60,000 ICT engineers per year. That's a massive power.
That's 400,000 trainees.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. A round of applause for our panel. And I want to hand it over to Mr. Mohamed Shamroukh to kick us, starting with 2 investment opportunities, and then after that, Mr. Mohamed Nasser for a last one. I'll invite the panelists to maybe have a seat in the audience if you want, and we'll come back later to wrap up the session and move to the second panel.